From career-ending injury to Olympic glory, the swimming comeback. Katie Ledecky's fight beyond the pool. All is lost. At the height of her dominance, Katie Ledecky stood behind the blocks feeling something she had never felt before: fear. Not fear of losing a race, not fear of an opponent, but fear that her own body might betray her. The swimmer who once made the impossible look routine now struggled just to feel normal. For the first time in her career, the question wasn't whether she would win. It was whether she could even race at all. Doctors searched for answers, training sessions felt heavier, breathing came harder, and whispers began to circulate in the swimming world. Was Katie Ledecky finally human? Some wondered if the era of dominance was over. Others quietly prepared for the end of a dynasty. Because when the greatest distance swimmer in history starts losing to herself, the stakes become terrifyingly real. Why the all mattered! To understand why Katie Ledecky's struggle mattered so much, you have to understand what came before it. From the moment she exploded onto the Olympic stage in 2012 as a 15-year-old, Ledecky didn't just win, she obliterated the field. She turned distance swimming into a solo performance, finishing races seconds ahead of world-class athletes who were fighting just to keep her in frame. By Rio 2016, she wasn't just a champion, she was a phenomenon. World records fell repeatedly. Olympic gold became routine. Commentators stopped asking who would win and started asking by how much. In events like the 800 and 1500 freestyle, the race was effectively over before the final lap. Her greatness wasn't flashy, it was relentless, lap after lap, stroke after stroke. Ledecky applied pressure until the rest of the field cracked. She trained harder than anyone, swam more yards than anyone, and demanded more from herself than anyone dared to ask. And that's what made her untouchable. But that same obsession, the grind, the volume, the endless pursuit of perfection would quietly begin to take its toll. Because even the strongest engines can't run forever without consequence. The dark night of the soul. The first signs were subtle, fatigue that lingered longer than usual, training days that didn't feel right, races where the spark was missing. For an athlete so deeply in tune with her body, Katie Ledecky knew something was wrong even if she couldn't yet explain it. As the pressure of expectations mounted, her body pushed back. Illness disrupted training blocks. Recovery slowed, performances dipped for the first time in her career. Ledecky wasn't just racing opponents, she was racing uncertainty. At major competitions, she faced defeats that would have once seemed unthinkable. Rivals closed the gap, some passed her, and suddenly the narrative shifted. Analysts spoke about age, burnout, and whether the sport had finally caught up to her. But the hardest battle wasn't public, it was private. Distance swimming is built on trust. Trust that your body will respond when you ask it to hurt. Trust that the pain will be temporary. When illness creeps in, that trust fractures. Every workout becomes a question mark. Every race becomes a risk. There were moments when stepping away felt inevitable, when the weight of expectations clashed with the reality of physical limits, when the swimmer who had defined an era faced the possibility that her best days were already behind her. For someone who had never known anything but forward motion, standing still felt unbearable. The long road back. The comeback didn't begin with medals, it began with patience. Katie Ledecky made adjustments not just to training, but to mindset. Less obsession with domination, more focus on health, more listening to her body instead of fighting it. The grind was still there, but it was smarter now, sustainable. Race by race, the confidence returned, not in overwhelming margins, but in something far more important: control. She learned to win differently, to rely on experience instead of sheer force, to trust her preparation even when perfection wasn't guaranteed. At the highest stages, she faced younger, faster challengers fueled by the hunger she once embodied. And instead of being threatened, she adapted, she leaned into strategy, into pacing, into mental toughness forged over a decade at the top. Then came the moments that reminded the world who she was. Strong finishes, tactical victories, championships reclaimed not through dominance, but through resilience. In the pool, she no longer looked like someone chasing her past. She looked like someone who had made peace with it and moved beyond it. The swimmer once defined solely by world records now stood for something deeper: longevity, courage, and the ability to rebuild without losing belief. The lesson beyond swimming Katie Ledecky's comeback isn't about proving critics wrong. It's about redefining what greatness looks like when perfection disappears. It's about understanding that even legends face limits and that those limits don't have to be endings. In a sport obsessed with youth and speed, she showed that wisdom matters. That adaptation is strength. That resilience isn't loud, it's steady. Her story speaks to anyone who has ever felt betrayed by their own body. To anyone who has faced setbacks that didn't come with clear timelines or easy fixes. To anyone who feared that the version of themselves they loved most was gone forever. Because the truth is, greatness isn't about never falling. It's about refusing to let the fall define you. Katie Ledecky didn't just return to the pool. She reclaimed ownership of her career on her terms, and in doing so, she proved that comebacks don't always arrive with fireworks. Sometimes they arrive with quiet determination, one lap at a time.